Well, hello everyone. Welcome to episode 47 of Driver Seat Blog Radio. As always, I'm your host, David G. Firestone. We're going to be starting a new tradition. I'm going to be doing wheel reviews in December instead of November. I like to take the month of December off and enjoy the holiday season. It's going to be a little different as my family's going down to Arizona, so I'm pretty much by myself. But it is what it is. So as I said, I'm going to be doing some reviews. We're going to be focusing primarily on odd racing television movies and TV segments, but I do have a big movie for the end. And we're going to start this week as we travel back to 1996. Now, the backstory on this is that I was looking at Mario Andretti's IMDb under his self section in terms of credits. I came across a show called Guideposts Junction. Now, this was created by the Guideposts. I don't know if it's a spiritual nonprofit organization, according to their Wikipedia, that encourages wellness through inspirational content creation. It was founded in 1945 by Dr. Norman Vincent Peale, Raymond Thornburg, and Peale's wife, Ruth Stafford Peale. And it started with just one inaugural magazine, but it has since grown to publish annual devotionals, books about faith, Christian fiction novels, 5 different spiritual magazines, prayer content, as well as a content-rich website for daily inspiration. So, around 1995, Guidepost decided that they wanted to branch out into the Christian children's television market. As such, Guidepost Junction was created. According to IMDb, this is what the premise is. Quote, at Guidepost Junction, Jody Benson, Wally T. Turtle, and their 5 young friends share real-life letters that Wally receives in the mail. There, Jody tells kids a related story from Guidepost magazine, and they offer scripture-based solutions to the letters through song, dance, and discussion. Now, if you've never heard of this show, I'm not surprised because it ran for 6 episodes from 1995 to 1996, all straight to VHS. 2 episodes, Angels, and All for One, were released in 1995 with Run This Race, It's Little Things, Yes I Can Do It, and Just a Prayer Away were released in 1996. Now, while the focus is on Run This Race from 1996, I had to discuss the full show to sort of explain why I'm going to describe the episode the way I am. Now, as I said, Guidepost Junction was straight to VHS, and it primarily stars Jody Benson, best known as the voice of the Little Mermaid, a character called Wally T. Turtle, who is a 6-foot-tall turtle, I'll get to him in a little bit, and a small group of children who all seem to work in a letter mill. The show has a pretty straightforward and simple formula. Each 30-minute tape had 3 10-minute segments. The first and third segments were somewhat more lighthearted, whereas the middle segment is a little more serious. Each segment has a bit setting up the episode. Then a letter is read a letter is read about a problem, and this sets up the moral of the segment. The moral itself is then explained through skits and/or pictures or videotape, and there is a song at the end. Now, during the lighthearted segments, the kids in the turtle dance along with Jody as she sings, whereas with the more serious songs, just have Jody singing with the kids listening. There are 3 morals that are written on signs and then placed on the guidepost. And then the show ends. Now, let's be honest, like many straight-to-VHS kids shows, Guidepost Junction has a lot of flaws, and unlike many of these, Guidepost Junction really doesn't do much to hide its flaws. The show is somewhat cluttered. No, the show and the set are cluttered, and there are times some of the things make little of any sense on the set. While there are a small collection of kids pretty much working in a paperwork mill, why that is never explained. And there are also 3 different segments have 3 different morals, rather than one overarching theme that goes through the entire show. Many of these letters, which are supposedly written by children, they do come across as a bit phony, sometimes being written for the moral in question, Though it may also have been, they also may have been taken from adult letters that have been written, but I can't prove that for sure. Now, making up stories that they don't really have proof actually happened is a part of this show, and I'll get to that in a little bit. Now let's talk about the characters. Jodi Benson, to her credit, does a decent job, though she does make it a little obvious when she's clearly reciting lines about subjects she really doesn't know that much about, as opposed to being able to talk more naturally when she clearly is. The child actors and actresses are all good. They all work well with each other, and they all seem to be having fun. They all have good chemistry with each other. And again, why they're working in a letter mill as opposed to being in school is never really explained. Now we have to move on to Wally T. Turtle, the quote-unquote co-star of the show. And I think I can say for a lot of people who watch this show, why? Number one, he's very oddly designed. He's a 6-foot-tall anthropomorphic turtle. Not unlike one of the Ninja Turtle live-action stars, though it's very obvious that the two of them are not related, and I'll get to that in a little bit. For some reason, he has yellow eyes instead of white ones, so it kind of looks like he has jaundice. And he has a goofy cartoon voice, which is, okay, fair enough. I've certainly talked about shows that have anthropomorphic characters without cartoon voices, but he only speaks in a monotone voice. So for most of the series, he only has one emotion, but I never know exactly what it is. And when I brought up Ninja Turtles earlier, that wasn't just a throwaway comparison. The actor in the suit, Mark Queso, is an actor and stuntman who's worked on, amongst other things, Mortal Kombat. He was Leonardo in Ninja Turtles 2. And now I can say for sure that there is now a connection between The Little Mermaid, TMNT, and Mortal Kombat, which is, I don't know if I ever wanted this knowledge. Now we move on to the show's biggest flaw. Inexcusably bad writing. While they clearly meant well, and while they clearly meant well, sometimes the bad writing is more noticeable than anything else on the show. For example, in the episode Yes, I Can Do It, the main segment involves Jodi and the girls challenging Wally and the boys to some softball. I have no idea how you play 4-on-4 softball, but that's besides the point. This leads to a whole girls can't play baseball thing, which leads to Jodi telling a story about former MLB star Brett Butler, and I swear I hadn't thought about that name in 25 years until I watched this episode. Now, supposedly in this story, Brett Butler was teased about growing up that he was too short to play baseball. Now, any real baseball fan is chuckling after hearing this, and justifiably so for several reasons. Number one, there is no disadvantage to being short in baseball. If anything, it gives the hitters a tactical advantage. Why? Well, let's talk about the strike zone. The way a player's strike zone is determined, according to Major League Baseball, the strike zone is the midpoint between the top of the batter's shoulders and the top of the uniform pants. And the bottom of the strike zone is at the hollow beneath the kneecap. So, taking that into account, a shorter hitter has a smaller strike zone, thus making the pitcher work hard to get a strike. Look at Eddie Goodale, the little person, who was put in for one at bat. His strike zone was so small, the pitcher needed to be a sniper to hit it, so he got a walk. Okay, that's the point. The shorter hitter is given a very distinct tactical advantage because you have a lot of power hitters, guys like Mel Ott and Mickey Mantle, who are short, but they were able to get a good number of hits and home runs. Second, if Brett Butler was ever teased by the other kids, he's never said anything about it, and there does not seem to be much, if any, evidence of it. I did a little bit of research. I've never found any evidence of him being teased about his height except a coach in high school saying that he wasn't good enough to play. What they should have done and this I don't know why they didn't do this. I don't know why this never occurred to them. Is that in this story they should have replaced Brett Butler with 5'3" NBA player Muggsy Bogues. Because if they had done that, I would be praising them. Because not only did Bogues get teased about being too short to play basketball, he also had a rough upbringing. And instead, he got his way onto the team, got his way to a college team where he had some excellent numbers, and he got drafted to the NBA. And he lasted a lot longer than a 5'3" NBA player has any reason to last. So that should have been the moral, because if they had done that, it would have worked perfectly. Even like an NFL player, like a short NFL player would have worked. I know they couldn't use Rudy, but it's just, again, bad writing just derails the plot. With all of that, we go into the segment that inspired this podcast. Now, Run This Race is from the tape with the same name from 1996. Now, it follows the standard Guideposts Junction protocol. Jody Benson, there's an argument between the kids. Jody Benson gets them to calm down. She reads a letter from someone concerning temper. And then she discusses a story about Mario Andretti, which is supposedly true, and I'll get to that in a few minutes. But in the intro to the story, Jody says, and this is a direct quote, "He's won just about every race in every category that is. Liar, liar, pants on fire." I could sit here for the next several days and just recite all of the races and all the categories that Mario Andretti hasn't won. So already there's that. If she had said he's won a lot of races in some of the top categories of auto racing in the world, I would have no problem with that. But saying that he's won everything that there is to win is bull honky. So, apparently, according to Jody, Mario Andretti was running a race and had a bit of a temper on him. And so one race, he and AJ Foyt, because, yeah, you don't want to pick an obscure driver. You want to pick a driver everyone knows. They were racing for the checkered flag. Andretti ran Foyt off the track in anger while trying to win. And then she says that he felt bad about it and went and apologized later. And that they are since good friends to this day. Now, first off, do I think this story is true? Well, kind of. I need to point out that Jody does not go into any detail about when or where this wreck supposedly happened. So there's that. But I think this story could be true for a few reasons. Number one, drivers wrecking, spinning, or blocking each other when it comes to the checkered flag is a tale as old as racing itself. This may lead to and has led to fights and ill feelings, but as the saying goes in racing, second place is the first loser. Why do you think phrases like checkers or wreckers and bring me the trophy or the steering wheel exist? Second off, I am even willing to accept the fact that Andretti apologized to Foyt. They are friends. I mean, if you want an example of how this works, let's look back at the 1979 Daytona 500 and the infamous fight in the grass. Donnie Allison, Bobby Allison, and Kelly Yarborough got into a fist fight after the race, which led to NASCAR pretty much being what it is today. But they all made up since, and as I think it was Bobby Allison who said, "We were friends before that, and we were friends after that, but in the moment we weren't." Third, it's not entirely out of the question that Foyt could have subsequently wrecked Andretti sometime thereafter. I would not hold it against AJ Foyt if he had taken the "I forgive but I don't forget" mindset. I'm willing to bet that Foyt got his receipt. Now, if you don't know what the term means, it comes from professional wrestling. In the worked world of wrestling, if you accidentally hit or hurt your opponent for real, they can get one back on you, thus being called a receipt. Now, depending on the wrestler, this could take place at any number of instances. For example, if you accidentally punch Brock Lesnar in the face, he will retaliate almost immediately, as Braun Strowman found out the hard way. Others, like The Undertaker, have been known to make you wait for it. Now, if after your opponent gives you the receipt, you take it and you apologize, the matter is considered dead. I got you, you got me. And I'm very much willing to believe that this happened. I don't care if it's the final lap or the first lap. Now, after this, Jody and the kids, they talk about the moral of the story. They sing the song, and then the tape ends. I mean, there's really not much else to say about it. In conclusion, Guideposts Junction really isn't great. The writing is bad. The plot seems to be all over the place. The morals are badly examined or could be explained better, but I will give credit where it's due. There are some good things to point out as well. I do think they handled a lot of the more serious topics, such as AIDS, quite well. Jody, Wally, and the kids are pretty, for the most part, they're good. They have good chemistry, and they actually seem to be having a lot of fun. There was a lot of effort put into this show. The set, while cluttered, is actually fairly well done. The music and the dancing is, well, some of it could be better, but it's certainly not the worst I've ever seen. Just the bad writing of the show is so much to overcome. Now, a few years ago, I made fun of a tape that's been circulating around the internet for a few years now called Dream Bunny. If you've never heard of it, it's a promo tape that was sent out to a number of studios by a small-time production company about basically creating Dream Bunny, which is it's like a stuffed rabbit that you keep in your bed. And the premise is when you fall asleep, the rabbit transports you into the dream world, and he helps you solve your problems, and you can talk about him. You can talk to him about your problems, basically. That show did really little to hide its flaws, too. But I can't say that these two are the same, because Dream Bunny was never meant to be seen by the public. Dream Bunny was literally a tech demo. It was basically it was just that this is what we'd like to do. We'd like to get you behind it. They sent the series. It was never meant to be seen by the general public. It was never meant to be broadcast. And I think on the original tape it does say this is not meant to be broadcast. So as much as I'd like to say that these two things are similar, I can't. Dream Bunny was rough around the edges because it had to be. It had to be because it was a tech demo, basically. This has no excuse. This is no excuse. All of these flaws, and there's no reason that, thinking about this logically, there's no reason that any of these flaws could not have been ironed out before this tape was sent out. I mean, getting some of the morals wrong is just kind of amazing. Using a terrible example is kind of amazing. But again, there's no reason that any of these couldn't have been quickly remedied before this tape was released. It's a show that had potential, but just it was never going to be anything more than what it was. And it's just, again, it could have been better. It was not good. And I don't know what else to say about it, so I'm just going to end it here. That about does it for this week. Next week, we will move on to a Fox NASCAR movie made around the same time as this show came out. I'm Dave Firestone. I'll see you next week with another episode of Driver Suit Blog Radio.